Radalicious. Hey guys, and welcome back to a brand new video. In today's review, we're going to be taking a look at Rad. This is a top-down action 3D roguelike game developed by Double Fine Productions and published by Bandai Namco. So a massive thanks for the early copy to them and for making this review possible. Now, I do want to point out before making this review that I'm not a huge fan of roguelike games. The only one I really kind of put some hours into was Rogue Legacy, so I'm not exactly an expert at this type of game, but I do want to point out that this one did get me hooked and I haven't actually stopped playing it since the moment I got the game. So Rad takes place in the apocalyptic wastelands after not one but two apocalypses. You'll then select a teenager, which is kind of a bit weird, but somehow the way they dress and whatnot goes really well with the 80s style that this game has in general. You'll then be thrown into the randomly generated wasteland with only, well, you know, just like in most roguelikes, you just start with your primary weapon, which in this case is a bat. So from here, you're going to want to look for upgrades, which in this case are mutations. Yeah, you know, you use the radiation to your advantage, therefore the name Rad. And you know, you'll get body parts, you'll lose body parts, you'll swap body parts, you'll get extra body parts, you get all kinds of random things when you mutate. Now, these will be basically everything that will help you through this, alongside stuff like items and loot. Now, all these will already be randomized each time you start a new run, well, at least to a certain point, but we'll be getting to that in a bit. Now, the wasteland is divided into a few levels. Once you beat the boss of that level, you will move to the next. So it's not like a lot of roguelikes where you can do it in whichever order you like and go after one specific boss and then maybe do another one. This game's not like that. This is like a semi open world level, obviously completely randomized. Then you maybe do a few objectives around that level, then go after the boss and then move to the next level. However, in this game, the bosses are also randomized at the end of each level. Well, you know, kind of just like the loot. Now, what I mean by that is that each level will have kind of like a pool of possible spawns. Like, there'll be certain bosses and items and loot that you'll be able to only get like in the late game shops, or you only see certain enemies in late game or certain bosses in late game, and you're pretty much never going to find them in the early game. So it's randomized up to a certain point, but it does depend which level you're in and how advanced through the game you are to see specific things. Everything else apart from that will be completely randomized, such as the number of underground areas, the caves, the things that you find around the map, like monuments and stuff like that, the number of idols that, you know, these things will give you more mutations. And you know, just anything that is a physical landmark will be completely randomized each time. Basically, the layout of the map will be 100% randomized. Maybe sometimes you find two underground caves with two mutations each in it, and then the other time you won't find absolutely anything. Now, just like most roguelike games, this game is brutal in difficulty, and it will make you kind of use a trial and error method to get to the end. Now, each death is obviously a permadeath, and you'll have to start all the way from the start, from the hub area, every single time you die. Now, the only things that will carry over are the tapes, which is the currency in this game that you have banked before dying. And that's pretty much about it, like actually noticeable from one run to the other, that's it. But you will also be able to permanently level up a shop in the hub area that will allow you to buy certain items either before entering the wasteland or after defeating each boss. And apart from that, you will also have a player based level that does not restart every time you die, and this basically unlocks more possible spawns in the shops, like different loot or items. To be honest, I don't really like this. I would much prefer that everything is unlocked as a possible spawn from the start, but you know, I guess it does give the game it gives the player a reason to continue playing it to discover more items. But for the most part, it is pretty much pure trial and error, and unless you're either very, very good or very, very lucky, you're going to be playing this game for quite a few hours before even coming close to winning the run. And yeah, you know, just like most roguelike games, luck does have quite a reasonable part in the game. Sometimes you'll get really bad items at the start, and it will pretty much feel impossible to complete. It's not impossible, but it will feel very, very hard compared to a run where you get actually good mutations or good items. Now, my absolute favorite thing about this game is just how different each run is, and it's not because of the map, since actually the map really isn't that different most of the time. What makes it so different is the way the mutations and items affect everything around you. Like, you can combine different mutations to do cool combos, or you can even like cook raw meat that's laying on the ground by launching a fireball at it or letting it burn by a fire attack off of the enemies. You can even like ignite flammable gas that will then explode. You can really find a lot of secondary uses for pretty much everything in this game. Also, sometimes you only come across items depending on the mutations you have. Like maybe if you have the fireballs, you'll be able to find a separate item that will allow you to have infinite fireballs for a limited amount of time. Or if you've got a slime trail, you will be able to find a potion that will give you infinite slime for a set amount of time. So make sure you look out for extra uses of anything in this game. The other thing I really like about this game is how reactive the controls are. But I guess, in all fairness, most rogue type games must have reactive controls, if not it would feel impossible. Some things I didn't really like much include the lack of types of bosses. There's only a few bosses in the game, and even some of these look almost identical to others with almost the same attacks. They just maybe change the color or maybe a tiny bit of the shape, and I really do hope they add some bosses in the future. And even if you do finally win the run, you will only fight a few bosses in that run. I don't want to like spoil how long the game is if you do it, but per run, per successful run, you really don't fight many bosses, since every other level you will actually only encounter a mini boss instead of a boss, which are basically normal enemies from later levels. Apart from all that, I do really love the 80s kind of settings with all the intentional bad jokes and the voiceovers. They're all pretty cool. I really like the visuals. It runs at 60 FPS even on the basic PS4 where all the gameplay is from here, and everything about the audio and the visuals I completely love. So for somebody that doesn't really normally play this type of game, I got hooked and I absolutely loved it, and I really haven't stopped playing it since I got my hands on it. So for me, this is going to be a great 9 out of 10. Rad will be available the 20th of August 2019 on Nintendo Switch, PS4, Xbox One and PC. So hopefully this review is helpful, guys. If it was, please go like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time, guys.
Exo mutation.